What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo, yo.
So, Nick, Bellator has a possibly the biggest fighter in their promotion now in AJ McKee.
Yeah.
Spectacular performance, submission win over Pitbull. That's a very rare thing to come by. You know, Pitbull's the guy that's finished Michael Chandler. This is a top level opponent here, a top level champion. And AJ McKee, who is a product of Bellator since the beginning of his professional career, 18-0 inside the Bellator cage, 18-0 professional record. That's almost unheard of. Bellator's got one, Nick.
That's ridiculous. To hear that kind of a record at that kind of a level, Bellator a lot of time gets seen as an organization that's not quite to the same standard as the UFC, and I can kind of agree with that, but make no mistake about it, there are fighters in Bellator that are better than a lot of fighters in the UFC, and AJ McKee is certainly one of them. When you talk about best 45ers on the planet, there is not a top 5 list, in my opinion, that should exclude AJ McKee from that. I think that he's a nightmare for a lot of the guys at the top of the 145 division at the UFC. And when you look at the who's who of the 145 tournament that they just put together in Bellator, I mean, that was a stacked tournament. It was a great Grand Prix, and he just kind of dismantled everybody, made them look like they didn't even belong in the arena with him. So I was thoroughly impressed, not just with his performance against Patricio Pitbull, but all the way through this Grand Prix, which was really a coming out party over the past 6, 8, 10, 12 months for AJ McKee. What a performance.
Yeah, he had a chance to – we all knew he was special, and now he had a chance to really solidify that. And as you said, he made this $1 million tournament look easy. And the funny thing here is we always have a lot of discussion when we do videos on Bellator. Admittedly, most of our videos are around UFC fights because that's where the interesting fights and the interesting topics happen in this industry. Right. At the same time, we put up a poll on the Barnhill Brothers community post the other day, and it simply said, if AJ McKee were in the UFC, would he be a top 5 contender and or a champion? And to my surprise, almost 65% of the people who voted in that poll said, without a doubt, unequivocally, yes. Yeah. AJ McKee is one of the best 145ers in the world. As you said, there is no list that you could make of the top 5 145ers that would be worth its salt that did not include AJ McKee. He's got an incredible submission game. He's incredibly powerful with his punches. He's crafty. He's creative. He's trained by his father. The guy has everything going for him. Incredible shape, good looking. He's trained by, like I say, he's trained by his dad. The sky's the limit for this 26-year-old young man. And now that he's got $1 million, it's going to get interesting because he knows and he's indicated the biggest fights for him are in the UFC. Yeah. At the same time, Bellator's done him well, and he'd like to stay at Bellator. The fact that he just became a champion, this was the last fight on his Bellator contract. But since he became a champion, it invoked a 3-fight extension automatically. So he's now been extended 3 fights with Bellator, or he could wait for 1 year and that clause would expire. So as a young man who's 26 years old, he is in no rush. He's got a very long career ahead of him, at least 10 more years. And if he wanted to, theoretically, he could continue training, sit on his hands, enjoy the year, spend his $1 million, save his $1 million, whatever he wants to do, let that contract expire and then sign with the UFC. Or he could continue on, win 3 more fights with Bellator, and then the sky's the limit for what he might be offered by both promotions. But either way he goes, I think he's solidifying himself as one of the best in the world at 145 right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. The one thing I have is, you never want to bite the hand that feeds. We always hear that. And Bellator has been a gracious hand in feeding him all throughout his career. I mean, to start your MMA career as a professional in the Bellator cage is something that's very special. And they saw something in him from long ago, and they still stick by his side to give somebody 18 fights. And they're not easy fights. They're giving him the right fights. And for him to keep winning is very impressive. But I don't want to see him, act like he's about to big league the Bellator brass and the people like Scott Coker that gave him this opportunity. I understand that there's more competitive fights and the biggest names in the sport are in the UFC, but I don't want to see him go, go to the biggest offer or go to try his hand there because he thinks that he can get a better offer over there. If I was Bellator, I would pay him, I'd give him a pay increase, show him what it's like to be a champion for them. But I would try to keep him if I was Bellator. I would try to keep him happy and pay him well so he doesn't try to venture over there. A few people like AJ McKee, if they become champions in Bellator, is what Bellator needs to show that, yeah, we are right there, neck and neck with the UFC. If every time a Bellator champion gets a belt and gets some shine and looks really good and they move over to the UFC, it makes Bellator look like a feeder league. And I don't think that AJ McKee should be one of the people that helps in that sort of situation. I think AJ McKee should go, look, Bellator's got – you bring me Max Holloway, you bring me into these guys, I'll dust them up and send them packing with their tails tucked behind them and show you that Bellator has the best fighters on the planet. But every time a Bellator guy gets a belt, if they get shipped over to the UFC, then it just kind of looks like an LFA or a Fury or a Cage Warriors, one of these feeder leagues to the UFC. And I really would like to see Bellator keep their guys like AJ McKee, keep him happy. And AJ, as far as it goes for you, don't bite the hand that feeds. They just gave you $1 million to put in your pocket, and they're giving you all sorts of shine. So be appreciative, and Bellator, realize what you got in your hands because he's a monster.
Yeah, that's well said. And Bellator is trying to emerge themselves as a competitive organization to the UFC and not a league that feeds people into the UFC. Right. And they've got some incredible fighters. And I think that I do still think, I agree with what you said, but I do still think that at the end of the day, if you want to go down as one of the best MMA fighters to ever compete, you do have to test your hand and win a belt inside of the octagon to do that. But that said, AJ McKee's in a special position because he's only 26 years old. So he could literally sign a 3-year extension or a 6-fight extension with Bellator, defend his belt a couple of times. He's already made it known that he wants both of Pitbull's belts. One of them will not suffice. He must take both from Patricio. So that's kind of an interesting thing to see the rematch happen, but at 155 for that belt. Pitbull saying that it was an early stoppage. I'm not really one to jump on that bandwagon, but I guess there could be some steam behind the rematch. The only issue they're going to have with Bellator trying to build the star out of AJ McKee is we looked at the numbers. I believe you sent them to me on Instagram, and the numbers basically said that the Strickland Hall fight happened at essentially the same time, and that peaked out at almost 1 million viewers. And the Bellator championship fight, the finale of the Grand Prix, peaked out at almost 200,000 viewers. So there, as far as viewership goes and ability to build star power, there really is no – sorry about that. There really is no comparison between the UFC and Bellator in that regard. So I think, sorry guys, we're going to have to see AJ McKee at some point compete inside the octagon, but over the next couple of years, I think I'd like to see him stay in Bellator.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I obviously he's a very great fighter and seems to be on a real tear. He's got it in his blood. He's learned all this stuff from his dad. It's a very impressive family. But I would like to see him stick around in Bellator a little while longer. Maybe if 18 wins, you can rattle off that quickly, that easily in Bellator. Rattle off another 10 or 12, beat Khabib's record of 29-0, and then move over. I think that will rise your stock quite a good bit before you come over to the UFC. And then if you can come over with that much steam behind you, I think they would make way and put you right into a title fight, almost like they did Mike Chandler, but even quicker.
I think so. So. Well, guys, let us know in the comments what you thought about AJ McKee's performance. Let us know. Are you one of the ones who believe that this kid could be a star and a champion in the UFC, or do you think there's levels to this game? And if he were over there, he wouldn't be quite the star that he is. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we always enjoy chatting with you guys in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, a like, comment, and subscribe is much appreciated. And if you listen to audio podcasts, check us out there as well, guys. And if you have the ability to, leave us a review. Thanks so much for watching this video, and until the next one, have a wonderful day.
Peace.